right, everyone. Welcome back to the Be Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Conor Murphy. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. We're back here. It is January 3rd, and we are going to address some common things going on about New Year's resolutions and how to stay consistent and how to get to your goals. So I was in a car ride with my good friend, James Hobart in Denver, and we were kind of talking about how, fitness and the right way to reach your goals at this point in time kind of has to be polarizing. And polarizing in the sense that it has to be bold. If someone's going to promote a product, it's like, this is the way. We talked about it on a couple podcast episodes ago about claims of this is the best 60-minute workout, the most effective, and all of these things. And they have to have these claims, and that's the marketing side of things. But, I was talking with someone who was referencing how important discipline is. And you see on social media, it's like discipline over motivation. And I get where people are coming from. I've read Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, and then into the Discipline Equals Freedom. And man, there's so much to it. But I think that too often people are writing off motivation. And, it's like, hey, if you have discipline, you don't need the New Year's to motivate you to start doing something that you want to do. Start, eating better, start working out every day, or start doing all of this. But why are we so fast to write that off? Why can't we utilize and lean into this New Year's motivation in order to help people? Now, granted, yes, you're not going to be motivated every day. And that's where the discipline part comes into it. But, it's almost like you can't have one without the other. If you have no motivation, then what's going to continue you to have discipline? There's usually an end goal. And Corey Gregory said this really well. It's like, how do you get someone to stay consistent and to stay disciplined and to stay motivated? And it's like, if there's someone who is so sick of where they are in life, whether that be with work, whether that be with their relationships, whether it be with their physical body composition, whatever it is, if that person every day is going to, let's say someone is morbidly obese, let's say they're 35% body fat. But if every day you have the discipline and motivation to go into the bathroom and take your shirt off and say, I'm done looking like this, that's your motivation. And now the discipline side of it is, what are you going to do about it? But that motivation can be the impetus, can be the driving force in order to get someone to continuously to stay on whatever regiment they want to stay on and to reach their goals. And, I think about my friend Slade, who we had on here, who lost 100 pounds and is continuing to lose weight and is continuing to get fitter. And it wasn't discipline that set him in the right direction. It wasn't like, hey, I need to start waking up at 4:30 every morning because that's going to make me hard. It's like, I'm going to jump in an ice bath every day because, that's uncomfortable and I need to be uncomfortable. Sure, there's some positive things about that. But how about that he was so overweight, he was struggling to get off the ground to play with his son. And he used that as motivation. As, hey, I'm not going to be in this place anymore. I don't want to be that dad. I don't want to be that adult or that parent that other people look at as, they're unwell, they're physically unfit, or where his kid knows, dad can only play for so long and there's only so much that my dad can do. He took that into his own hands and used that motivation. And I'm sure there were times where it was tough, but when you have that core thing that's motivating you and pushing you in the right direction, it's okay to lean into it. It's okay that, you're not, that there's some days where, you're not as motivated, where you wake up and you do want to sleep in, or you do want to, have that snack or have that beer or go off the wagon. And sure, discipline can help you, but you've got to be motivated in some sense about some sort of end result, about some sort of goal. Otherwise, what's the use? How quickly are you going to lose your discipline if there's no goal you're looking for? And that was another thing. It's always like these Instagram reels, and I always get all fired up. And I'm not trying to be this polarizing by saying, hey, it's motivation, not discipline. But there's a lot of different things, right? We're just talking about the pendulum swings back and forth. And right now it's just so heavily on discipline. The motivation is getting this like, Like, hey, this is still a very, very important thing. And speaking back to what I was referencing, there was an Instagram reel, and I've seen it shared, 100 times. And it says, the man who enjoys walking will walk further than the man who wants to get to the destination. And you're like, yeah, okay. But what if the man who wants to get to the destination learns how to run? He's sure going to get there faster. And then what happens when he gets there? Then maybe he has more goals and other bits of of other objectives that he can have, and he learns to adapt and do a bunch of other things. I don't think it's 100% about loving the process either. Sure, loving the process can help you. It can help you with discipline. It can help you stay motivated to do, whatever your goal is, or whatever it is that you're doing. But, I think about the amount of athletes that I've had the chance to work with, even myself, trying to compete for the CrossFit Games. There were days that I did not want to train. There were weeks that I didn't want to train. I did not love the process every day. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I was motivated, sometimes it took discipline. But I can tell you that end goal was what was kind of the glue that keeps all of this stuff together. You think about consistency in training, super important. Discipline, having the ability to do what you need to do regardless of how you feel. The motivation, putting yourself in that place because your goal is so important. And it's like that goal is what kind of keeps the glue all together there. The days that I was excited to train and I loved the journey, it's because I wanted to get and compete at the CrossFit Games. Having the discipline on the days that I wasn't motivated, why was I able to have that discipline? Well, I wanted to get to the CrossFit Games. If my goal was just to train, it's gonna be a lot more difficult to have those other things, to have the consistency, to have the discipline. So don't stray away from setting goals. It's not all about having to love the journey. In fact, I almost think about most things in life, or most successful people, they are grinding through things that they don't particularly love doing because they want to get to the end goal. You start to love and appreciate the process because you're so driven towards your goal that it's a necessary part of it. There are these things that you can lean into, and progress in whatever you are trying to get to, whatever it's hard to even think about something without a goal. It's like, I want to start working out. Why? For the sake of starting to work out. Like I can't even think of anything that would have that be relevant or make sense. So maybe some objective things that we can think about here are, one, finding a goal. And we always talked about goals as SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, I believe. Is that all the letters in there? Yeah, I haven't thought about that in a long time, man. I just hit that. I think we had it written on the wall at some point in time. There's all these things about, okay, what's a good goal? This goal's too small, this goal's too big, whatever. Let's find a goal. Let's find something that you want to do. Hey, I'm going to go 30 days without drinking. Awesome. Why? Because I want to feel better. I want to be healthier. I want to lose, body fat. I want to save money. Whatever it is, find that. It's got to be, time bound, attainable, realistic. And then we can start to use all of these tools that we have in order to get there. But I think the main thing is that, do you really want this? Is this really your goal? Because then the other things will fall exactly in line. I am sick of being out of breath when I walk to the top of the stairs at my apartment complex. I'm in a full sweat. I see other people that live in there and they're looking at me like, oh my God, like I hate that. So maybe that's your goal. I want to lose this. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to lose 60 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds. I want to run a marathon. Find a goal, and it's got to be something that really drives you. And then when you find that, then the motivation, the discipline, the consistency, you can figure out ways to get that done. All of these incredible resources of people pushing, enjoying the process, or pushing how important discipline is, the motivation side of it. But they all come together. And I think by having a goal can be the most important, and maybe not the most important, I don't want to, just draw back and be like, this person says this is the most important, but I think this is the most important. But I think it can be incredibly important in order to keep discipline, consistency, and motivation. And I'm finding myself in the same place right now. And I think it's because I don't necessarily have a fitness goal. I don't have a goal of aesthetics about what my body wants to look like. I have some work goals and some things that I'm writing out to stay consistent, disciplined, and motivated in order to attain that. But I was thinking the other day, maybe I should sign up to run a marathon. And this is maybe where I'll kind of sidetrack from what we were first talking about. This is just kind of a personal thing, and maybe you guys can relate to it. But I've done a lot of fitness throughout my life, and I think I've built up a lot of capacity. And the 4 marathons that I've ran, I didn't really train for. In fact, 2 of them I did absolutely nothing. I just signed up on race day and I ran, and it sucked. It was very, very uncomfortable, and I completed it. At no point in time did I think I wasn't going to complete it. And then at the end, you're like, yeah, I did that. Cool. But if I'm honest with myself, that was a cop-out. Completing a marathon was a cop-out for me. And if a marathon is not attainable for you right now, I don't want you to look at this and be like, oh, Conor's saying a marathon is easier. You need to find something harder. No, I think I needed to create better goals for myself. I think if I would have said, hey, I want to run a sub 3:30 marathon, sub 3 hour and 30 minute marathon, that would be a challenge. And why that would be a challenge is because I would have to train for it. I would have to find discipline in my routine again. And I would have to have that 3:30 goal as the motivation that kept me training consistently, finding a workup program, and then showing up nervous on race day to say, hey, there's a chance this doesn't happen. I haven't had that in a while. And I think one of the things that I'm motivated or excited to do is there's a Nantucket triathlon, and it's a sprint triathlon. So I believe that is swim a quarter mile, which is 400 meters or 400 yards, depending on, which system you use to measure. It's like 13-mile bike, and then like just over a 5K run. And I don't want this to sound condescending. I don't want this to sound conceited, but I could do that. I could have a dozen beers and then complete that. But it's not about completing it. And I think too often I've been soft on myself because I've built so much fitness by having these incredibly, lofty goals of competing in the CrossFit Games and working out with other people and having discipline, motivation, consistency, that it's still kind of there. But what I want to do is I want to challenge myself. So I want to go in there and I want a podium, or I want to win this thing. And that's going to take more than me just signing up for it and people being like, oh, you did it. Cool. You have to continue to challenge yourself. And the reason why I've lost a lot of consistency and maybe not as much discipline, but the consistency and motivation is because I haven't set a goal that terrifies or scares me. There's been things that I know I can do or I can be capable of, but that's not who I want to be. I want to be someone who tries and fails. I remember that we had a whiteboard at Reebok CrossFit One, and everyone wrote their goals on it. And that was the same board that I was referencing earlier. It's like the SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. Yeah. Write that down. Maybe I'll coin that and we can sell it. Stupid. And so everyone, we had hundreds of members of our gym, and I wrote down there, said, compete in the 2014 CrossFit Games. And I put a box right there. Oh, Conor Murphy. Pow. 2014. I missed qualifying for the CrossFit Games at regionals by 1 place. It was also my goal in 2013. It also happened to be my goal in 2012. And in 2015, it was my goal too. I broke my first rib, so it wasn't as much of an absolute heartbreak being so close to getting through the open and getting to regionals to competing as an individual at the games. But I didn't care how I competed there. I just wanted to get there. And every year on that wall from 2014, because that's when I got up to Reebok, until 2017, I just had the year crossed off and I put the next year year crossed off, put the next year crossed off, put the next year. And in 2017, I got to check that box. But if I had the same mindset and attitude towards it now, I could say, hey, I want to compete in the CrossFit Games. And, and just kind of train and see if I could get there. Or, maybe the goal wouldn't actually be that high. I'd say, hey, I want to complete all of the open workouts as prescribed. And someone could look at that knows me and they're like, yeah, man, like, of course you can do that. And then when you finish it for someone else, they could be like, oh, that was a very difficult goal for me. And you were able to do that too. Really cool. But, I don't think it was, I don't think because my competitive career in CrossFit is over that I need to not give up, but I need to lessen the intensity of my experiences and of my goals. So, just to kind of wrap it up, this is kind of a personal experience type podcast, but I hope you can learn something from it, or at least get some insight. And if you have something that's helped motivate you and you want to reach out, again, you can always, if you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, you can always reach out to me on Instagram at Conor T. Murphy, CONORTMURPHY, as well as us at Big Night Fitness, BIGNIGHTFITNESS. I'll always get back to you guys, and I learn so much from anyone else's perspective on this. I just don't want to get too caught up in a this is the way type scenario. And I get why people have to do it, because it is polarizing and it is something that's going to draw attention towards it. It's like nowadays someone who says, hey, I have a way that's been very effective for me and my clients. That's having humility, but it's not going to grab or reach it quite as many people. And so with those things, let's not lose sight that discipline is important, but it's okay to be motivated. And it's okay to lean into that. And when some days you're not motivated, then the discipline side of it, as I said, I'm going to do it, is going to put you there. But it ties directly into motivation of getting to your goal. The consistency of training. What is consistency? Hurley and I were just talking about this before. Like, consistency for me might be every morning for the entire month of January, waking up at 5 a.m. and training. Cutting out any stimulant, cutting out caffeine, cutting out any nicotine, cutting out any alcohol, cutting out anything, cutting out any sugar intake. It's like that may be a goal for me, and that I have to be consistent every day, but maybe once a week is your goal. And your motivation is to, win the championships in your roller hockey league. It's like that can be okay as well, but if you want to win, maybe then after practice one day, you spend an additional, 20 minutes on stick work. It's okay to have that motivation. It's okay for consistency to look different for different people. But let's not cut out that they're all very, very important things. And then in my last piece, when we were talking about the, enjoying the journey, like, sure, enjoying the journey is good. That doesn't mean you have to love everything that you're doing. The person who loves walking will walk longer than the person who, loves the destination. It's like, yeah, but, it's cool. Like, Forrest Gump, just running to run. If you have a goal, maybe we can get there faster. Maybe you don't love walking so much, but you're doing it anyways because getting to where you want to get to is so important rather than just aimlessly walking around. I know it's more of a metaphor than an actual specific thing, but shoot, why not have a goal? And for me, I need to make better goals. I need to make goals that challenge me. I need to make goals that expose me to failure, because that's when I'm growing the most. That's when I'm the best version of myself. Part of the reason I hated competition is not because I didn't like what it entailed. It's not that I didn't like the work that led up to it. It's not that I wasn't motivated or I didn't like the end result. But before every workout, I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was nervous. And it was like, what if I do poorly in this? And luckily, I got to rely on everything I had done to prepare for that. But it's an uncomfortable feeling. And sitting at the starting line of a race, I'm sure everyone has this feeling at some point in time. You're like in third grade when we had to run the mile, and I'm like, what's going to happen here? There's usually good things that come from that. And this is kind of a driving force for me to do something hard. And so on the next podcast episode, what we're going to talk about is what I did about this, because I need to have something objective Can't just tell you guys, here's what you should do, and then, not have any way of doing it. But I'm going to think about it, and I think that Nantucket, speaking is hard. I'm going to work on speech therapy to be able to say words that I want to say. But yeah, figuring out what that entails and what the training, getting a training plan and then signing up for it to crush it, not just to complete it, and challenge myself there and put myself up there against people I've never put myself out there against. And if I get last place, then now I know what to do on the next race. But excited, I'm motivated. If you've got motivation because it's the new year and you have that new year, new you, which people always like to put down, fuck that, lean into it, make it happen. If you want some guidelines or goals about how you can train, a good training program, free online programs. If you're in the Boston area and you want to work out with me, reach out. Let's make it happen. I never say no. I rarely say no when it comes to training. And it may not be the exact day that you reach out, but I'd love to make it happen. And it is that's inspired me and that's kept me going in this industry. So just want to say thank you guys. Happy New Year. Sorry if I was a little preachy or soapboxy on this one, but stay motivated, stay disciplined, stay consistent, create some good goals. All right. See you next week.